I really do think about our employees or our learners, our consumers of our products. And we also are toying with the idea of learning influencers, or what we call learnfluencers. So it's funny that you mentioned that a lot of other organizations say, oh, you know, I've email and I've Microsoft Teams and that's my only channel. I was having a think about that after listening to one of your recent podcasts, and I just started to scribble down all of the channels that we use, and I actually came up with 18.
Hey guys, I have been so excited to share this conversation with you. It's our first ever guest recording for the Marketing for Learning podcast, which I'm excited enough about, but even more so because I've managed to have a conversation with a really incredible learning and development practitioner who has taught me a lot just in the 45 minutes we chatted. I was lucky enough to sit down and talk to Caroline Fitzpatrick. Caroline is the Senior People Development and Learning Manager at L'Oreal UK in Ireland, and she is part of a team of 6 who are actively executing marketing for learning tactics and strategies in their day-to-day lives at L'Oreal. As you'll hear from her, this approach is working. I really loved learning a bit more about Caroline. She's got a really cool career background. She's been at L'Oreal for about 12 years, and in that time she's worked in retail, education, commercial management, and then has been in L&D for about 4 years now. And because of that cool background, you know, she's really drawn on her sales and marketing experience and applied some of that within the team. And that has led to a drastic shift in learning culture. In fact, so much so that her team's efforts have been shortlisted at the Learning Awards, which are happening on the 17th of February. Mass is also shortlisted for an award, so we're going to go and cross all of our fingers and toes. I think the thing that came through the most of all with me is Caroline's not afraid to experiment and test, and that shines through in everything that she's doing. And her passion for really helping people to realize their potential at work is so contagious that I left our conversation feeling energized and excited for the potential of marketing for learning. This stuff works. I'm not going to lie, I've listened to the recording a couple of times because I'm an absolute nerd, and every single time I have learned something new. I hope you do too. Please note that all views expressed in this podcast are Caroline's alone and are not necessarily representative of the views of L'Oreal. Hi guys, I'm here today joined by Caroline Fitzpatrick. She is the People Development and Learning Manager at L'Oreal. She has very kindly given us some of her time today to come and talk about the marketing solutions that she's introducing into L'Oreal in terms of improving their learning culture and increasing learner engagement. First and foremost, Caroline, thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me. I am an avid listener of your podcast already, and I've learned a lot from you so far, so I'm absolutely delighted to be here.
Oh, thank you. And I'm absolutely certain the learners will be learning from you today as well. The listeners, same thing. So first and foremost, I thought it might be useful just to provide a bit of context in terms of who you are and your career so far and your experience within the learning and development function. Could you just give us a bit of insight into where you've been and where you are now?
Yeah, absolutely. So I've been with L'Oreal for the last 12 years, but in a real variety of spaces. So I started in commercial and in retail, and then shifted to education for about 2 years. Then I made the move from Ireland to the UK. Obviously, I haven't lost my accent. Very strong Irish accent.
I haven't lost my accent either, and I've been here for 21 years.
Yeah. We've talked about your accent already. I'm really looking forward to, or actually, you're having a conversation with Hannah on where your accent's from, isn't it?
Well, do I drop the bomb here? I don't know. Well, let's do it. So I'm originally from the States. I moved over to the UK when I was 13, but then after I finished university, I went traveling for quite a long time snowboarding, as you do, hedonistic lifestyle, and was in Canada for a while and back in America, and so picked up the accent. So I've kind of got this like multi-layered accent, which becomes a bit of a Frankenstein, semi-Irish sounding cannibalism. I don't know what it is, but it's mine.
No, it's a fabulous accent, and it absolutely it gets people's attention.
Unique.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, that's it. It's a conversation starter always.
Yes, well, mine is a fully fledged Irish accent, but I moved to the UK about 7 years ago and continued down the commercial route. But while I was doing that, my passion for learning and people development really was too strong to ignore, and so I made the jump into learning and development. And thankfully L'Oreal is an organization is really great at allowing their employees or giving them space to just take their strengths and skills and leverage them in different spaces, like so to test and learn. So I have been in education, HR, retail and commercial within 12 years. And I think that is just testament to the learning culture that exists in L'Oreal. So you have your strengths. Let's see what we can do with them. Let's see how we can leverage them in the business.
That's amazing. And I think having that level of exposure in different parts of the business has likely given you a broader oversight, not only in terms of who the learners are and the different kind of thought processes that might go with some of those audience cohorts, but kind of give you a wider depth. I think you touched on the commercial side and kind of get more visibility over how retail is actually targeting consumers and things like that. So is that where you kind of started dipping your toe into the world of marketing?
Yeah, absolutely. So working with L'Oreal, we have currently, I think, 36 incredible brands within our portfolio that we sell in UK and Ireland. And so we have exposure to the best marketers in the world. So it's very hard not to pick up tips as we go along. And that's definitely how I've looked at almost looking at our learner personas, understanding the needs of our consumers. So I really do think about our employees or our learners, our consumers of our products. So where do we find them? What do they need? Because I think when you're solving real life business problems, engagement is never a problem. People want to work with you. And so how we approach our role as a learning function is really to partner with the business to create a culture where the development and growth of our people is really the key to our success.
Sure, absolutely. And I love that you've touched on something I hop on about all the time, which is your learning is a product. Yes, you are selling it, and therefore your learners, I have a problem with that word at the best of times, yes. Even though I used it accidentally earlier. But they are your audience, they're your consumers, and, reshaping that mindset is one of the biggest things that, I think this podcast is hoping to help with, is actually starting to think a little bit more pragmatically around, people don't automatically want to learn. That's not kind of built in innately into us, especially in an organizational or work-based context. So I think that it's really interesting to see that, already the culture within L'Oreal facilitates some of that, failure and learning from that failure. But how you've kind of then started to incorporate that culture within your learning culture. You guys are actually up for an LPI award around the learning culture, aren't you?
Yes, so it was the first time that we kind of got involved with learning awards, but we saw the Learning Culture of the Year award with the LPI, and we thought that this was the best place to represent really what we're all about. So we're not about learning hours or anything like that. It really, what we're proudest of is the culture we're creating, and I think the psychological safety around our learning environment. So we are shortlisted, and the awards are going to be, it's mid-February, I think, that they're happening. So we're really excited and hopeful that we will come first place.
Fingers crossed. Keep your fingers crossed from us for gold as well. Come on. So tell me a bit. So obviously, if you're up for an award and you're shortlisted, you're doing some stuff right already. It sounds like you've got some tangible data behind some of the stuff that you're doing in terms of evolving your learning culture and sustaining that evolution as well. Would you be able to give me a bit of insight into what exactly it is that you're doing at L'Oreal that you think maybe is a bit more distinctive, forward-thinking or evolved in comparison to what we're kind of seeing generally across the industry?
Yeah, absolutely. I think there's lots of different things to share with you. I wonder what's the first one we'll look at. Actually, what you commented on and how we connected over LinkedIn was our Spotlight on Learning campaign that we did earlier this year. Was around the time of Learning at Work Week. And we decided to really go big around this time. And it was an employee activation and engagement campaign really to showcase our learning offer. And importantly, it wasn't the what we offer, it was the why we offer it. And we engaged the whole business, and we had some really, really strong results. So I think we had over 1,500 employees engage in the week. Our NPS score, our Net Promoter Score, was 89% after the week, and we engaged just different levels of the organisation. So I think that was a really exciting activity or campaign that we ran. The reason behind it, so we rebranded essentially. So we rebranded and we completely changed how we wanted to be seen first and foremost. It was about partnering the business and solving real problems at the right time. But it's also about employee centricity. So we're now seeing, we were the learning and development team, and we're now people development and learning. So putting people at the center of what we do and why we do it. So that was really important for us. And I think we approached this campaign with a marketing mindset. So we had teaser videos, we engaged our exec level team, we had podcast style webinars, we had live panel discussions with our senior profiles. We really, if you look at how L'Oreal promote their products, we use influencers and we use celebrities. And if you bring that down into the organization levels, our celebrities are our exec level team, so our MDs. And so we use those as our celebrities throughout the campaign. And we also are toying with the idea of learning influencers, or what we call learnfluencers, within the business as well, which for us, we're just taking people who are really great learners. They're super learners. They're really engaged in our offer. Their careers have accelerated because of their capacity to learn and their learning agility. And we're using these profiles to share their passion for learning, but also to help us to communicate our message, our offer, and to also help us to personalize and tailor depending on the audience that they meet as well.
Sure, and I think that strategy is actually really, really smart, because especially those learnfluencers, they kind of they serve two fundamental roles. They help to amplify the learning voice, because, for example, like you on this podcast, right? I'm going to share it on LinkedIn, then you're going to share it and you're going to amplify it to your audience. So having people that have some level of influence across the organization, which can help to amplify your voice, is absolutely intrinsic to getting wider buy-in. And I think the other thing that you touched on there that I found very interesting is it's a very multi-channel, multimedia approach. So, the fact that I saw a learning campaign on LinkedIn is very interesting to me, because when I talk to L&D a lot, they'll come to me and they'll say, we've got an intranet, we've got some email capabilities, whether that's sat with internal comms, or maybe they have their own ESP, maybe they have Yammer or Teams or some sort of social sharing platform. It's really interesting that you're actually using wider external platforms to amplify and increase the reach of your learning campaigns. Is that intentional?
Yeah, absolutely. So we really want to use our learning culture as a means to attract the best talent out there. So learning isn't just about developing our internal employees or our existing employees. It's actually about attracting the best externally as well. And the way to do that is to shout about our learning culture externally. So it's funny that you mentioned that a lot of other organizations say, oh, you know, I've email and I've Microsoft Teams and that's my only channel. I was having a think about that after listening to one of your recent podcasts, and I just started to scribble down all of the channels that we use, and I actually came up with 18 that we currently use.
I don't have 18 marketing channels.
Yeah.
I want to hear them.
Right, so we start with email, of course. That's the one that everyone thinks of. You have MS Teams. We have a monthly newsletter that we use. We have a TV. So we decided, the learning team, to buy a TV and put it in the office, put it in the canteen, so that we can share videos and share promotion. And we bought it maybe 4 years ago, and it was an investment at the time, but it has absolutely paid dividends. We have, at times when we were in the office, of course, we have our posters, our banners, all of these. Of course, we have the intranet, but people are your channels. So I have your HR business partners, your learning ambassadors, or our learnfluencers. But I think a key channel that you have to leverage is your managers or your leaders, because if they are not advocates of your learning offer, then, you know, essentially we're in trouble. So that's really a key channel that we work. Our exec level team, our senior managers. So how we really use these people, or use them is probably the wrong word, but how we leverage them. A lot of those exec level team members have actually been with L'Oreal since they're interns or grads themselves. And so how they have learned has actually helped them to get to where they are today. And so we really use those as our celebrities, as I was saying. But then I think as well, we have like business updates. We go to team meetings. So we're a small learning team, but at the same time, we let our presence be known. So we have a building that has 8 floors, and at times on different weeks we might sit on the 3rd floor with a particular division, or sit on the 5th floor, just so the learning team themselves can be seen as this channel of information. And LinkedIn is just one of those channels as well. So I've only covered a few there, but it just shows that we shouldn't be stuck with, okay, email and posters are the only thing we have, because it's just not true.
No, I think that's such an incredible perspective that is definitely needs to shift the mindsets within most people I speak to, you know, myself included. You know, there's certainly some channels that you mentioned there that I've thought, holy crap, yes, of course, why aren't we doing that, you know? But I think because it's like L&D's kind of ensconced in this internal comms world, but they're often, in my experience at least, and I don't know how supportive, or it sounds like they are, like internal comms can sometimes be a bit of a blocker. They can be really restrictive in terms of the brand, but they can also be really tight on what you say, how you say it, when you say it. Might not even be willing to share their social media channels with you, or that's a different team altogether. I was hoping we could just loop back to something that you mentioned a little bit earlier, and it's a thread that I've seen quite a lot in my conversations, and it's that manager piece, and how much of a blocker managers can be in terms of really helping with the engagement and adoption, even awareness. You know, if you're looking at a kind of cascading downwards scenario, if they're kind of not bought in, it is very problematic, and I'm hearing that a lot. So obviously that was a very robust campaign that you've delivered. Could you give any tips or ideas of what sort of stuff did you do to actually engage the managers within L'Oreal with regards to the campaign, and how has that helped to evolve the culture further?
Yeah, I think one of the best things we did was actually the day one of the campaign, or actually beforehand. So we had a really cool teaser campaign, which was simply a 30-second video that we sent around, and it just teased what we were going to do. But it had a lot of our very senior leaders do little snippets, so it really generated lots of attention. But on the very first day, we had a live panel where we had someone interview 3 of our most senior leaders, and we called it the power of learning. And it was just an hour discussion on how learning has catapulted them to their success. And they shared some really, really interesting insights into what drives them to learn and what they've learned along the way within L'Oreal. But again, it just reinforced the why behind learning. So the World Economic Forum, for example, I think it was last year, a study they did, showed that by 2025, 50% of the world's workforce will need upskilling. So it's not a case of learning is nice to have. Learning is absolutely key to have to ensure that you are employable and valuable to an organization in the long term. And so that was a super success. I think over 200 people joined that session, and it really accelerated engagement from there. So people looked at all of the courses that were on that week, and the engagement just catapulted after that session. We could see the rate of engagement. People were signing up to courses at an accelerated rate straight after that course.
Wow, that's amazing. And I think, so obviously as you're talking, I've got like 1,000 questions rolling around in my mind. I love that you did like a teaser or a pre-campaign as part of your campaign, because again, that's a component I see often lacking, where if L&D is indeed thinking about, okay, we have an initiative, or we have a program, or we have something that we want to raise awareness or instigate a change somewhere, they'll often do some marketing around the fact, right? So if it's an implementation of a new platform, around the launch of the platform, there might be a little bit of noise, but it dissipates very quickly. And I think, if you don't have that audience, like back in the day when I was working in-house before I launched a brand, one time, I spent about 6 months building up an audience first of, excited people who wanted to know what we were going to do, so that when that brand went live, we already had people who were eager and interested and involved. And I think that pre-launch stuff is really, really important, because that's where you really start to generate the buzz. And therefore, that's an incredible facet of your campaign that may have not been as successful if you didn't do that kind of pre-campaign stuff. So I'm actually curious, how long did is it still running, but how long did that campaign run?
So it was a week long. It really was just a showcase of what we run all year round. So it was 36 courses jammed into 1 week. So we were hopeful that at least everyone would get a taste for what we offer. But the message really was, learning isn't just this week. This is a showcase of what we have on offer all of the time. And I think one of the other things that we did during that week was we launched our peer-to-peer learning, or it's employee generated learning. So as I said earlier, we have some of the best there is in the business in L'Oreal. And so oftentimes I think organizations think, okay, we have to spend loads of money, we have to bring external people in to share their expertise. But we see it the other way. We can see that actually we've the best talent right there, and all we need to do is give them a platform to share it. So our peer-to-peer learning, what we do is we go out to the business and say, right, if you are an expert, if you are the person that people rock up to your desk and are like, oh, do you have 5? Why don't you take that expertise, develop a course with us, and then put it out there? And we had some amazing successes. I remember there was one course, Growing Ecom at Max. It was a colleague called Supriya Gurbakshani, and all she did for the hour was share a project that she had worked on that had been successful. But loads of people in the business, I think again 100 people joined to hear what she had to say. And the ideas that she sparked throughout the business was incredible. So we didn't have to pay someone to come in to tell us what to do. We just share what we do already. So that has really accelerated our learning offer, because it doesn't matter if it's e-com, if it's digital or commercial, this operations, there's so much talent within the organization. We just need to share it.
Yeah, and I guarantee that the people who attended that session weren't all from the function that she was from, for example, either.
No.
You know, there's so much to be learned from other areas of the business that, you know, and I think that's, again, another lesson for us in L&D. We have a tendency to get blinkered and sit in our little echo chamber and only want to consume or learn from trusted learning sources or whatever it might be. Whereas actually, you know, this user-generated content stuff, I think, is incredibly powerful. You know, it helps amplify your voice, right? You know, you've got other people kind of sharing the same message, living the same values, but they also become a conduit and provide something called social proof, which I'm sure you're very well versed in.
Yes.
For our listeners who don't know what that means, social proof is basically getting influencers or external people to vet or vouch for your product, your service, your business, whatever it might be. It's a reason why the likes of TripAdvisor, Glassdoor, Capterra, G2 Crowd, etc. exist, because we trust the advice and expertise of individuals and people more than we do from, say, a brand. So if the learning brand is going around saying learning's great, like you're going to learn amazing things, that might get hurt a little bit because of the incredible work that you're doing. I think you built some great trust with your audience. But people going around saying, hey, I did this thing with this lady and she taught me all this stuff and that was amazing, and or, you know, hey, I'm speaking here, do you want to come and listen? Like, it's a really different, it feels like a really different message, you know?
Yeah, I think one of the things that I was happiest with watching our peer-to-peer program was the fact that more senior members, so more senior people attended those sessions. And it just shows that the learning culture within the organization, it's not like you can only learn from people who've been there longer or have reached a higher level, because we can all learn from each other. And another example, actually, I had created a course for this week called How to Be a Great People Manager. So one of our people developer, one of our competencies, so we have 5 competencies that we look for in our leaders, and one of those is people developer. And what we discovered was it wasn't that managers and leaders didn't want to focus on learning. Sometimes they just didn't know how to. So how to create a learning culture. And so I created a 1-hour course on how to embed a learning culture within the team and talked about psychological safety and all of those things. And surprisingly, an ELT member, so exec level team, so Karen Flaver Jones, who is an icon within the business. But this lady who in our eyes, like, knows it all, attended my course and was like taking notes and really engaged in the session. And it really just showed all of the other managers and leaders that we can learn from everyone. So there's a huge ecosystem here. And it's not just going on those 3-4 day formal courses with external providers. It is, you can learn absolutely everywhere and from everyone.
Absolutely. Interesting, you know, I'm hearing such a very positive pro-learning culture across the organization, of which your team has clearly been very responsible for. I'm curious, obviously some L&D functions don't have this sort of corporate culture in the wider business. There may be other things going on. Some of the things I've observed that I don't always see that you guys are doing is, you know, really networking with the business, acting much more like a business partner. And like you said, kind of facilitating ways to meet the business needs rather than saying, okay, well, you know, we've got budget to spend, or in worst case scenario where L&D kind of is just sitting there waiting for instructions from the business in terms of, oh, we need this leadership training, or, you know, we've got new products, we need some sales training, or whatever it might be, order takers. I think, you know, you guys were probably never that way by the sounds of things, but there might have been a time when you were, and it's nice to see that you're working as part of the business rather than acting in silo, I suppose.
Yeah, absolutely. I would like to think so. And I hope that our results, you can see over the last 3 years, we do an employee engagement survey every year. And from over the past 3 years, we've actually increased our learning score by 14 points. And that is, I feel supported in my learning and development by the business. So that really is a key indicator of where success is for us.
Sure. So I just have a couple more questions, and I'm more than anything, obviously, you're doing a lot from a marketing perspective, and obviously you're building all the learning, you're doing everything an L&D function is expected to do, and then on top of that you're doing all this extra layer of marketing, communications and campaigns. Obviously your campaigns aren't running 24/7, but I expect there's still comms and messaging and things that are going out on a regular basis to keep that consistency piece going. How big is your team?
So we have a fabulous intern called Joshua Ryan. We have Emily Payne, who's an apprentice, and then Sarah Wright, who's our project manager, Alona Pogakova, who is a learning manager, myself, and Vanessa Palmer, who's the director. So a team of 6, and we work, we have 3 distribution centres. We have 2 offices. So we've our Dublin office and our London office, and then the 3 distribution centres. So in total, I think we've 4,000 employees right now, and we are responsible for the onboarding as well of all of our employees. So really looking at the complete life cycle, the learning journey of our employees.
Wow. I mean, phenomenal work for a small team. I think I'm not surprised you've been shortlisted. Question for you. Any of those marketers?
Surprisingly not. Although Emily, our apprentice, I think is going to be one. She has fantastic creativity, and we use Canva. Can I say that?
Oh yeah, I love Canva. I'm obsessed with that thing. They should give me some affiliate link or something. I should be freaking getting money for the amount of times I talk about that product.
Yeah, so we use Canva, and she's an absolute wizard on it. So we have some really cool campaigns that we do, and we always try to have like a quirky element. So as an example, we had Ecom U week. We had a full week of ecom upskilling for everyone in the business, trying to get everyone to at the same level. And afterwards she created a catalogue, but instead of it just being a basic catalogue, she created a play on Deliveroo. She created a catalogue with all of the key takeaways from the learning week. And it was just really cool, and we got so much feedback about it, that it forced you to open it because it was quirky and different, and then the takeaways were really short and snappy. So again, another way to embed the learning.
Yeah, and that's worked because it's modern. It links to things that are directly related to people's lives outside of the business. I think we have a tendency to feel like, we're in a corporate capability here. We need to be boring and stuffy and use the corporate casual tone of voice, which I always have coined that phrase, where it's very boring and no one cares, right? You don't want to listen to it. So that's worked because it's something you maybe would expect like Innocent Smoothies to do, or like a brand that's totally outside of L&D. So I think that and the reason I asked that question wasn't to say you should have a marketer. It's actually more to point out that look at what you're accomplishing without having any official marketer on your team. Like, what grinds your gears with L&D? Like, is there anything that you think, why are we still doing this? This is counterintuitive. It is completely useless in a modern L&D function.
Yes. How much time do we have?
I mean, as much as you need.
I think the first thing that really frustrates me is when we call it training. I don't know how you feel about that word. I know how you feel about the word learner, but training, it just doesn't reflect what we do, and it doesn't reflect on us well. I don't want to be trained to do something well. I want to be empowered to do something even better. I want to build capabilities, not to train someone. Training almost gives the assumption that we know how to do it best and we're training you how to do it. We don't. We bring amazing people to the business to show us how to do it even better. So that, I think, is something I would love never to hear, along with the word mandatory and the focus on learning hours rather than learning impact.
Oh, Yes, I did a rant on LinkedIn about learning hours not too long ago because
Yeah.
that one drives me wild. Like that's like me like working with a client and saying, "Oh, yeah, this campaign that we did, we had 500 people open the email." So what? What happened after that?
Yeah, or worse. Okay, I'm going to charge you for 500 hours worth of work. But what did that work actually do?
Yeah, like it kind of like it's so high above performance impact that it like to try and draw lines between those two, I think is incredibly arduous of us. I think, I don't really get it. I think we've latched onto it because for a long time there, that may well have been the only data we had. But we are way past that now.
Yeah. I think it's an indicator of how seriously someone takes their development. But at the same time, it is one fact amongst many that shows how invested you are in upskilling yourself.
Absolutely. And final question for you. Obviously, you've shared so much information today, digging into the depths of a learning campaign that you're shortlisted for an award for. Best of luck with that, by the way. I'll probably see you at the award ceremony, unless it goes virtual. What is one thing that you would like our listeners to take away from our session today?
I think the biggest thing for me is partnering with the business to solve real problems at the right time. So look at what are the objectives of the organization and how can you partner with the business to make sure we achieve them. Not having their own agenda for the sake of having a learning agenda. It has to be aligned with the whole business because that's what will get them engaged. If we're solving real problems in real time, I think that's when we will be seen as valued partners.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much, Caroline, honestly, for giving me your time today. I expect our listeners have learned a huge amount from you and probably also have a lot of questions. If there is a way that people could get in touch with you, can they find you on LinkedIn and all the kind of normal places?
Yeah, absolutely. I would be super happy to answer any questions that people have. So just connect with me on LinkedIn.
Fabulous. That's Caroline Fitzpatrick. She's the People Development and Learning Manager at L'Oreal, and she knows that marketing for learning is going to be a thing.
It's going to be a thing.
Wow, what an amazing first guest. I hope you enjoyed listening to that as much as I did recording and chatting with Caroline. She is such an innovative, forward-thinking learning and development professional. I love the fact that she has a diverse background and she isn't just from learning and development. I think this has given her a more well-rounded perspective on the business as a whole and also the wants and needs of her learners. As you've heard, the culture that she's developing at L'Oreal is phenomenal. And some of that, of course, has to do with the organization as a whole supporting that learning culture. But it is a testament to what her and her team of 6 are really doing in order to not only create fantastic learning experiences for their employees, but also really focusing on how they raise awareness of those learning experiences and how they continue to have engagement with their audiences long past that awareness stage. I think that she is really doing it all, and I hope that you've learned something from what Caroline has kindly shared with us today. Please join me in giving her the best of luck for her award next month. We do hope you win, Caroline, and I will see you there for a cheeky gin.